Space, the final frontier. Well, okay, not really. All right, take two. Here in the Mitten State, welcome to Code 47, bringing you all things Star Trek, spanning the quadrants, the best thing since the neutral zone.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. This is one of our first, potentially our second, potentially our first segment of the Secret Friends Unite podcast network special Patreon content. I am here again with my lovely co-hosts. That would be my right hand gal, lady, what have you, Kay. Kay, how are you?
I'm doing very well and very, very excited to be here.
Awesome. And then, of course, we have the fantastic Missy Merchant, friend and ship's counselor on the USS Grand Petoskey. Missy, hello.
Hello. My pleasure to be here and have kind of helped coordinate this.
Oh, my gosh. And then we have with us a bona fide, awesome human being, super cool guy. That would be, I'm going to do a lot less talking because I'll just be like, blah, 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 blah. But no, Mr. Doug Jones is here with us today. Doug, hello, and thank you for being here. How are you?
I'm great, and I'm also quite humbled by that introduction. I don't deserve all that.
Oh my goodness!
But I do like being on the Secret Friends thing. That sounds kind of ninja-like.
I love it. I do, of course, before we get rolling, want to give special love and appreciation to the good folks at the Cool Waters production for helping make this possible. So without further ado, I'm going to turn things over to my esteemed colleague, Missy, to kick us off. Oops, Missy, I think you're muted.
Oh, are we good?
Yes.
That was an easy fix.
All right. Good to see you again, Doug, even if it's not face-to-face this time. Still equally amazing.
You too, precious, Missy.
To kind of... thank you. To kind of kick things off, could you tell us a little bit about what your exposure to Star Trek was, if at all, before getting on Discovery?
Right. Well, being 62 years old, my exposure has been lifelong. And because I was born in 1960, and with the first original series coming on network television in 1966, that would have made me 6 years old. I just did the math real quick there, and so I was watching it here and there. I would call myself a casual fan over the years. That back in that day, there were 3 networks and maybe a local independent station. So when you're flipping channels, there wasn't a whole lot until you land on Star Trek, and you're like, "What is that?" Right? So I was quite head tilted and like open eyed, going, "Wow, space travel! What?" And I think it was Spock was the one that I was most drawn to, because he was the taller, skinnier one who didn't look like everybody else, and kind of I was like, oh, that's what I feel like when I go to school. so I liked tuning in to see what their next adventure would be. It was things I couldn't experience in Indianapolis, Indiana, So then through the years, of course, you can't again channel flip without having hitting some Star Trek somewhere, whether it's Next Generation, whether it's Voyager, Deep Space Nine, Enterprise. And now, of course, the channel flipping has changed because we're all on a streaming service now. So the newer generation.
So we're back to smaller channels.
Yeah, we lost the channel flipping like surprise. Like, oh, what's this? I think I'll stay here for a minute. You have to really look for it and subscribe to it. But it's still. But there's a whole new generation of Trek going on that I'm really proud to be a part of.
Well, we're very proud and glad that you're a part of it too.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
So having had like Star Trek, like you said, all the iterations through all these different generations, what was it like to be offered a role on Star Trek versus people that have to go through and kind of fight tooth and nail for a spot?
Right. That was when you're an actor who's come up for, with a 36-year career, and you're used to like tap dancing and begging people to like you, to have like a huge production like this at a huge network like CBS it was CBS All Access, now Paramount Plus, sit you down in a room with a bunch of writers and like show you their plan for the show and beg you to be in it. It's like a ton of events for me as an actor. So I felt quite honored. But Brian Fuller was our showrunner at the time. He's the one who began, and I think he was off the show before it started even filming.
Right.
And for various reasons that I'm not even aware of. But it was, thank heaven, he was a fan of mine and was aware of my career before that. So it was a part of me was like, oh my gosh, and the other part was like, it's about time. Because when you have a career under lots of rubber bits and you've played lots of aliens and other animal man hybrids and various otherworldly creatures over the years. And you think, like, here's this Star Trek franchise that has had a lot of guys and ladies in rubber bits over the years.
You're like, come on, what's the deal?
So what's the deal, right? And of course, Michael Westmore was big as a makeup artist in that realm, and I'm friends with his entire family. So I'm thinking, like, well, where did this go wrong? So when the call came, it was like, okay, well, and I was 56 years old at the time, thinking that ship had sailed. So that phone call changed everything, and it's like, oh wait, the ship is docked again, and I can get on. Oh well, right.
Oh my goodness, wild. Well, hey, with Saru, you are now 100% feet in the clay. A part of the Star Trek family for eternity. Like, for example, I will get to see you in March because you're going to be on the Star Trek cruise. My wife and I are doing the Star Trek cruise. So we're like super fired up about that. What has it been like? And was it something that you expected, on day one of Discovery and everything that followed?
I didn't know what to expect because, I could tell already by reading, they gave me a script, not knowing what the entire series was going to look like, but it felt and read different than any other Star Treks I'd seen before, on television especially. So it was, I thought, well, okay, well, and I understood, but yet there were elements of nostalgia and callbacks to, the canon that was like, okay, well, no, we're still here in that universe, but there obviously there's more action, and when I saw the production design plans and everything, it's like, oh, this is huge. This is like making a movie every week. This is way more cinematic and big production value than what I'd seen on television before. So I knew that we were turning a page in the Star Trek book to add a new chapter, and so that was very exciting to be a part of that. And the other exciting part for me, really, with Discovery was, you're going to be helping create a new species for the entire world of Trek. I'm like, the Kelpians had never shown up before. This is a whole new thing, and it was also, we were taking place 10 years before the original series when we started, and then now, of course, season 3, beginning of season 3, end of season 2, we jump 1,000 years ahead. So we played both ends of all the series that we've seen before.
Right.
So
right.
that was another mind bender to try to where are we fitting in the timeline, in the bigger timeline, and why hadn't Kelpians shown up in these other series before? But it kind of now that we're ahead and in filming season 5, it all makes sense now. Why there's more species to discover as we go because the universe is quite large. I don't know if you knew that or not.
A little bit, yeah.
So to take on the Kelpians, and I would had I been cast as a Klingon or as an Andorian or as an Orion or anything else that had already been established, or a Vulcan, I would have had a certain amount of study to do and replicating of any species tics and mannerisms and things. But as a Kelpian, it's like, it's free game. We can create this from the ground up. So that was very exciting for me, and also intimidating and terrifying, because if I get this wrong, the fans will never forgive me. I want to make sure that the Kelpian stays in the canon as a fun and different species that you hadn't seen before.
Right. And so leading into that, kelpians are definitely my favorite species in Star Trek, and part of that is because it does speak to. As soon as I turn on the channel, it's kind of like with you and Spock, where you're very tall, you're very lean. I am 6'1". You can't really tell that right now when I'm sitting down, and so my awkward 12-year-old self, who was 6'1" and heard a lot of fun things told to me while I was in high school and middle school, I immediately connected with Saru, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is someone I can like feel and I can emulate. And it's just to see that grace and power in the way that you carry him is very inspiring, and it just puts balm over my heart every time I see him. And I've loved watching him grow with character. But oh, absolutely, thank you. But how was it in creating him? I mean, you were just talking a little bit about it, but as far as like what kind of creative input did you have, and how did it come about as far as, the lore and their history and just how he carried himself and the biology of the Kelpians?
Well, what was explained to me, the backstory that was explained to me before we started season 1 was that he is a species based in fear. He's a prey species on his home planet. So they likened him to Kelpians to like a deer, with a leopard chasing them, always looking over our shoulder, always trying to detect threat, and looking for threat where it wasn't even. So that was the annoying part of Saru for many people in the beginning, was that he was kind of a scaredy cat, but he had to overcome that. He's the first Kelpian to have ever gone through Starfleet Academy. He's the first one to ever hold an office on a ship, to be a part of Starfleet. So this was a big deal. And I think Saru poised himself to a place of, he wanted at least the exterior to say, I got this, while his interior was trembling in fear. So
very much fake it till you make it.
Exactly. That's kind of what everybody went with. So the writers threw me a curve, of course, in season 2 when I got all sickly and thought that my life was ending because I was going through Vihari. And on my home planet, Vihari meant you get culled and killed by the Ba'ul because it's our time to go. Didn't know any better, didn't know any different. And now that I'm away from that home planet in a ship I'm the only Kelpian on a ship surrounded by this new chosen family of mine. I got through Vihari and it was like, wait a minute, that was my adolescence. I'm an adult now. What? And all of a sudden the threat ganglia fall out of me and I have no fear anymore. So that was a curve I did not see coming. And so I'm thinking, I based this entire character on fear, and now that's gone.
When did you find out about that curveball?
When I got the script for that episode. I'm not kidding you.
Oh my goodness. So that was a real curveball.
So I'm turning pages going, okay, rethink. How do we do this? But what was, so it was good that I'd already established Saru with a gentlemanly poise that he could carry through this new phase. So even though he's for a minute there, he had a couple of moments of exercising this newfound freedom and fearlessness. But at the end of the day, he's still reminded that he was a gentleman and how to continue with his decorum and his sense of duty and all of that. So I have been, and I think without the fear too, that really poised him to be able to become captain in season 3 and lead without that baseline of fear,
Yeah, and he still maintained such a gentleness about him. Like, one of my favorite parts is, I think it's season 3, episode 2, where he's talking to Tilly, and she says, like, oh, I talk when I'm nervous. And he's like, there's just like this quiet pause, and then he goes, well, you can continue talking.
Right.
I was like,
in the new time zone.
yes.
We were filming that scene in Iceland. It was so gorgeous out there, and there was a glacier behind us, and I'm out there in my hoof boots wondering, am I going to fall to my death? Is this where this happens? We started that walk and talk on the edge of a cliff.
Oh my goodness. I say, I have to commend you in those hoof boots. You've done some amazing things where I just do not know how you manage.
Well, so now, as a lady of 6'1", you also probably appreciate that Saru's love interest is half his height. right? So
Yes.
it's good to know that that love can be possible for all of us, no matter what our shape and size.
Yes,
Yeah, good.
exactly. No, speaking of, his love interests and also, the gentleness and just constant decorum that he has, you have a ton of prosthetics on your
Mhm.
face when you are being Saru. And honestly, it is one thing that always drew me to him is how you can still emote in all of those prosthetics. How is it that you manage being able to show like shock or surprise or anger when you still have all of those prosthetics on your face?
Well, I tend to be very facially expressive and very expressive as a person. So it's probably a good thing that I have a layer of silicone over me that actually dulls that down a little bit, because I'm just basically I'm not acting a whole lot. And so what expression does read on Saru is it's a subtlety that I love, that I have trouble with in my real life. And when I'm playing a human character that has to be subtle, that's a chore for me to throttle back on my natural instincts to be like, please understand me. Do you get it? So, but if you're doing that under this thick, he's got a thick skin, literally,
Mhm.
that doesn't respond quite as much as my real face does. So that actually is a help to keep his reactions and facial expressions more subtle. And what I can't, if my eyebrows don't do enough, this is where the rest of the body comes into play. And this has been in any character I've played over the years. If the face is something that doesn't respond as well, if it doesn't give the right expression, a tilt of the head, a gesture of the hand, a change in back posture can help sell the expression, hopefully.
Well, you do an amazing job with that. And I guess it works well with how Kelpians kind of, or at least how Saru tends to feel very, very deeply, but also very cautiously. It seems like when he's, kind of striving for things or when he's having deep feelings. So, and I noticed there's kind of a similarity with the Vulcans, and what you're with his growing relationship with Tarina is very much kind of both sides of the same coin or different sides of the same
Mm-hmm.
coin. So how do you think that kind of played a role in their growing bond and, dare I say,
Right.
relationship between the two of them?
Well, it was when she was introduced in season 3 as a guest on our ship when we were, I think oh gosh, of course I'm forgetting storyline now, how we got to the planet Navarre now, it's called, that she's president of. Um, uh, I guess Captain, or she wasn't Captain Burnham, but Science Specialist Burnham, or Burnham. I think she was my first officer by then. Challenged President Tarina with that. I'm going to forget the name of it. That where you,
It was it was basically like a court, like you had a
right,
challenge for like
was it called the
philosophical
Kuwait
challenge.
or something
Right.
like that? Is that so?
Yeah, the
Yes.
Unification 3, because it was the part of the Unification trilogy, like from back in TNG with
Yeah,
Spock.
right. So
Was that third portion? Yeah, now
she
I
had to
remember.
so Burnham, put this challenge out there where she had to present scientific proof that the Vulcans then and the Romulans, the Navarians, would have like a civil debate, and she had the chance to be heard. It was about the origins of the burn. I think that's what we were trying to get the bottom of. And man, that's when President Tarina was then, okay, well, I guess you've challenged it. We have to honor this challenge, because that's part of. So when she came out, when she first appeared on the bridge and as a hologram to greet us, that's when Saru kind of stood up slowly and looked at her. That was the beginning of the spark. It was the minute he laid eyes on her, and it's funny because the writers they weren't really thinking that direction until I brought it up. And I'm not going to give myself all credit for this, because it seemed Michelle Paradise was our showrunner at that time and still is. So I was asking her, "Are you guys heading us into a romance by any chance?" And she said, "Huh, well, I hadn't really thought about that all the way. I'm like, what? It seems so obvious to us because as I'm, may I show you the ship? And the two of us are walking around the hallway, having a very dignified, prim and proper conversation with each other. There was a connection, I thought, immediately, where we kind of got each other, and we were both. Both these characters and both these species are quite poised, and quite well mannered and respectful. So I thought if all of a sudden it felt like we had changed from a science fiction show into an English frock drama,
Yes, that's a very, very accurate description.
Which I loved. So
the Bridgerton of Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Darcy. So anyway, so by the time that whole episode was done and she was saying her goodbyes, it was just the two of us in the ready room, and she gave me the live long and prosper, and I got to say it. You do the gesture back to her. But during that conversation, I said, I know that there's a lot more, diplomatic discussion to happen about you, Navarre, rejoining the Federation. But in the meantime, I'd like for our discussions to continue. And that's what I thought the writers, like, you didn't mean for us to have you like, can we keep talking? Can we do coffee? That's exactly what
he right.
And so to the, yeah, well, okay, yeah. So season 4, of course, she comes back, and that's when our love buds slowly. It took all season for us to lead up to a handhold. Which
was
amazing, right?
Can I say that was the cry moment?
Yes. Aww. I was watching. I mean, like, I wanted to know what was going to happen with the DMR or whatever, but like, no, I was rooting. I was rooting for her. The entire time. Yes. I was like, I just need more of this. I don't care.
The combo name that they've given us, that a lot of the fans give is Taru.
Oh, that's adorable.
Oh, I like it.
Oh, hang on. My battery's running low. I'm going to have to plug in. I forgot. I did. Hang on.
That's all right. That's what keeps things real.
We're going to get her. I forgot. I just got into this hotel room last night, and I thought, well, my laptop's got a full battery. Yeah. And now,
we're back.
Okay.
Not for me. There we go. Awesome.
Okay, so did we close that idea?
Yeah, and I think that a lot of it also came down to, I don't know if the writers were expecting you and Tara to have such great on-screen chemistry.
I think that's something you don't know is coming. Yeah, you're right. That's a crapshoot. You never know. And Tara Rosling, who is just a brilliant actress, she's Shakespearean. She has spent a lot of time on stage and is trained to be very, she can stand in a beautiful gown and orate, a monologue like nobody I've ever worked with. So she was perfect as a Vulcan, just a perfect Vulcan, I think. Yeah. and so but what you were talking about, we are Kelpians and Vulcans do have similarities, but our one difference is that she does not show her emotion, and I certainly do. So that's where we've had some interesting relationship moments, is when she's being so behind a mask of deadpan face, and I'm like, and Suru's trying to read her and innocently not quite getting it. I love that part.
So how do you think that they might challenge each other or help each other grow then in the future as this relationship develops? I mean, obviously with no spoilers. Right.
Well, as their relationship grows, since they both have such a strong sense of duty and loyalty to, she's loyal to her duties as president of Navarre and her association with the Federation now. She's very much an integral part of the workings of the Federation. And Saru, of course, having been captain and of a starship, and very, very loyal to the Discovery family, as well as now the Federation is at large. That kind of comes first for both of them. But this budding relationship is like, I'll just pose a question. Might they start making decisions that also include their emotional relationship status?
Mm-hmm.
I'll just let you
We can all
ponder
only
that.
hope.
All right, to chew on that. Oh my goodness. Well, we've talked a lot about the chemistry between Saru and Trina. We actually just a few days ago had the opportunity to have an interview like this with Tara, and you're right, she's absolutely fantastic. So we've kind of talked around that, but moving on a little bit, if you were to pull from the world of Doug back into the character of Saru, what kind of things come to mind?
How much of Doug is in Saru, you mean?
Exactly correct. Yes, I know. I took a really
No.
roundabout. Take 3 rights and left to get to that question.
Well, as an actor, you do. Every character I play has to have some element of me because I'm the one playing him. So, but how much of myself can I lose in a character, and how much of me does come through? We were talking about the fear thing before, and what I really connected with in the beginning with him was this constant anxiety leaving the house, going out. Even though I present as an extrovert, I am an introvert in my heart. So going into a public situation can be frightening, but I have to do that. Put on a good face, hold your head high, get your back in the right posture, and carry on. Right. So totally.
Sir? Yes, sir.
And I've had so many fans out there on the convention circuit that have had quiet little one-on-ones with me at my table to tell me how much they can relate to that and how much their own anxieties and depressions have colored how they live their life and their day, and how Saru has been a beacon of how to get through that day. And I feel the exact same way. I've learned so much from Saru. I think the most important thing I've learned from him is that when you are facing a situation that seems fearful, or you can't see around the corner and you have a fear of the unknown, which is like me almost every day. If whatever's coming tomorrow, I'm terrified of it until I know exactly how it's going to go. So it's all about perspective. When he had his threat ganglia and still had his innate fear, he always considered everything as a threat, as did Doug Jones. So but to see him go and then all of a sudden the circumstances, the world around him has not changed. His reaction to it has. Oh, so maybe we can all learn a lesson from that. It's like whatever's happening is still going to happen. What I can change is how I respond to it and how it affects me.
Correct.
I've learned to live in the moment and not worry about tomorrow as much. Be prepared for it, yes, but don't worry. Accomplishes absolutely nothing. So I think you're asking how much of Doug Jones is in Saru. I think Saru has become a part of Doug Jones now in a really beautiful way.
Oh,
I love it. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Now, going back to how you were saying, like, you're very overly expressive, and like having all of that silicone helps kind of temper that down. So how was it acting as Saru without all of that silicone in season 3?
Right. That was rather terrifying. Again, I've used the word terrifying so many times because I feel it so often.
See, previous answer.
Right. All of Saru. When approaching a character, the script informs a lot. Your director or writer's room informs a lot, and then of course the finalized makeup that goes on you also helps inform the character and the choices that you make. So part of Saru was developed by his look. Okay, I've got this certain kind of a shape of head, and it works with a certain silhouette on me, and I've got these hoof boots that change. That it's harder to walk on, and it changes my posture, and that's where the side to side swinging of the arms and that certain gait when he walks came from. So to go flat footed and lose the silicone and be a hologrammed human as Saru, that was the scary part. I played many human beings over the years, so So working without rubber on my face, that's not that scary to me. What is playing Saru without his look, So I was just like thinking, can I pull this off, and will the audience buy it? So that was my challenge for that. That was to keep his voice in place, and to keep his some of his physicality in place, even though he had to morph into human, but there still had to be some Saru in it. So I had to find the hybrid between human and Kelpian. So I don't know if I pulled it off or not, but I got a lot of lovely comments from the fans on the line, while all those were airing. Yeah.
Yes, I greatly enjoyed it. I had a little moment of like, oh, that's got to be so nice that you don't have to spend like hours and hours in makeup for those episodes.
Oh yeah. Being done in the makeup trailer in 7 minutes was a big plus. Yeah.
So, besides being able to be a human now and being a Kelpian, if there was a different species of Star Trek that you were able to transition into, who would you be, or what would you be, and why?
Oh, I know. Well, we've been talking about Vulcan so much, but I'm afraid that's where I would go, especially because of my love for Spock in the very beginning of my Star Trek awareness, and also. Something else I forgot to tell you in that first meeting that I had in the writer's room when they were pitching the show to me was that Saru will be the Spock of the show, not Vulcan, but he'll have that kind of place in the story and on the bridge of the starship. I'm like, so that's when I was like, oh, well then, yeah. So.
Again, the inner child, just feeling all of that balm and right. Wonder.
And Vulcans get to wear the coolest, they have the best sense of style. I love their clothes.
They really do. Right? Yes, it's beautiful.
His robes are second.
And their architecture, when you visit their home planet, it's like, oh, everything's like so sleek and modern and cool. And yeah.
As opposed to the flip side of it with the Romulans, what was the expression? You'll find everything gray, the buildings, the people, the food.
Right. The anger, whatever.
Yes.
Yes. Very gray anger.
Well, and Kaminar is beautiful in its own right. We don't want to short that.
No, absolutely not.
Absolutely correct. Yeah, you got it.
So because you got cast as the Kelpian and you got to bring it as the first ever to the Star Trek universe, what was it like when you got that first script that said you had to speak and eventually even sing Kelpian?
Oh, gosh. Okay. Thank you for bringing this up. When you're an actor and you have to speak a language you don't know on film, it's just intimidating and scary no matter what. So that happened for me in Pan's Labyrinth when I had to learn Spanish in paragraph form. And I also did a movie in French called Gainsbourg, A Heroic Life, where I played I played an alter ego character of Serge Gainsbourg, a famous singer-songwriter in France. And that was all in French, much even more difficult than Spanish even. So, but learning Kelpian, there's a language that doesn't exist, but they're writing it and creating. We have a linguist that works with the show that helps us, helped us with help the Klingons with, the established Klingon language and getting it right and trying to get pronunciation right. And you never know if you're getting it all the way right. And then now developing and writing and creating Kelpian as we need it. So it is a legitimate language that they're coming up with as needed. So that means I can't fudge it. I have to try to get it right. But thank goodness, again, I'm the first one to speak it. Therefore, no one can tell me my pronunciation is wrong. Away before. So if I get it wrong, the linguist will send me, audio files to give me this line and how it should be pronounced. And if I get it not quite right, no one's gonna know. So yes, but probably the most intimidating, scary thing that happened, because I think I spoke Kelpian when we visited when the Red Angel brought us back to Kaminar, my home planet, which I was never supposed to go back to. I remember when I left Kaminar in the beginning, it was with the understanding that I couldn't come back because they were pre-warp society. I was joining this, this thing. I ne'er the twain shall meet. So
pesky prime directive.
Well, prime directive, exactly. So I so it was a big surprise that we were guided back there, and now I had this new information that, like, they don't know about Vihari, and that you can live through it, and that the Baul are probably suppressing us all these years. I have to free my people. So during that visit to home, I found my sister again, and when we greeted each other, we had a short little conversation in Kelpie, and I think that might have been one of the first times I had to speak it. And and of course, you're just searching for words the entire time. Like, okay, what's next? Is it that what sound is that? Well, then in season 2, when Ariam, when we lose Ariam, and now we're having a little send off funeral type service for her in the ship's like cargo bay. When I saw that again, it was another script moment. Like, I'm reading the script, and Saru says, and now, it's customary on my planet to sing a funeral song. Like, no, because then I thought, am I going to make up the tune myself? Is this something I do a cappella and then in this language? Oh, good gosh, this is a nightmare. So. Then of course later comes an audio file where they had come up with a tune and a melody for it, and then I had to work with a vocal coach who could get me on board with getting the tune correct and the phrasing right with the Kelpian language. So it took some rehearsal, and the one thing I'm glad at least I had the presence of mind to ask for was could I pre-record that song and lip sync to it on set, because when we shoot Discovery, more than any other TV show I've ever been on, we get more coverage than anything else I've ever worked on. From this angle, from this angle, from this angle, from that angle, a wide shot, behind over the shoulder. We get it from every angle, right? And so if I had to a cappella just sing that song live on microphone every time, it would not be in the same key. It wouldn't be consistent. Though I would get the words wrong at take or 3. And so I said, let's pre-record it so that it's at least the song sounds the same every time. I can lip sync to it. You can get it from every angle, and it'll be the same. It'll cut together really well. So that was my idea. I'm very happy that we did it that way. So, and then in post-production, they actually then changed the song slightly. So I had to sing it again in an ADR voice looping session. But at least by then it cut together well.
Came out sounding just like Boys to Men. It was amazing.
or Milli Vanilli, right?
I was holding that one back, but I'm like, it's like the VMAs when the song started skipping, just ran off.
And of course, it's not the first time you've had to sing on camera, so I don't know what that's like every time you get presented with a role, but you've also had to sing for, you sang in The Neighbors with Dominique, which was hilarious. You sang a drunken song with Hellboy for Hellboy 2 as Abe Sapien. Any chance we could convince you to give us a small little ditty now?
A small ditty now, right now?
Yeah. I have faith.
Oh, good heavens. Okay, a small ditty that doesn't have to relate to anything I've already done, right?
Correct.
Nothing at all.
Absolutely nothing.
My niece Leslie came up with a little, very short lullaby in the car one day when her little sister was trying to fall asleep and take a nap on a road trip. So I'll try to do that for you now.
Awesome.
Exclusive
Time
content.
for Napalooza. Snuggle in and take a snoozer. It's a dream palooza when you visit Napalooza.
Oh, yay!
So heartwarming.
That is adorable.
I've been
God.
awake for about 20 minutes before this call, so I don't have my... but
Well, we'll get you back for the ADR for that one before we
speaking of singing, an off-camera moment that we have on set a lot is I've joked around for years that like when I retire from acting, whenever that would be, what I would love to do in my retirement is have a bad Vegas act where I'm off the strip in some little dive bar doing a cover tunes act in a sparkly shirt with just one musician on a Casio keyboard with all the sounds, including percussion. Beep, baka, booka, book.
Yes.
I can do cover tunes in, of like songs that are not appropriate for a middle-aged white guy to sing. Whether it would be like,
Yeah, there you go.
first I was afraid, I was petrified, kept thinking I could never live without you by my side. So many nights thinking how you did me wrong, but I grew strong, and I grew how to get along. And so you're back from outer space. See,
This
I'm
is not
into
better
it.
than I
And-
could ever hoped for.
And to put a cherry on top, you in the the Mac Tonight
Yes.
outfit from that old spot from the '80s. Yes, that's how I'm envisioning
There
it.
you
That's
go.
my vision. I like it.
yeah.
Well, and not only from the singing side, but a lot of people don't know you've actually been in at least a handful of music videos too.
I have been.
Want to talk about that for a hot second?
I was in Madonna's bedtime story video. She had an album called Bedtime Stories, and I think the song was called Bedtime Story that I
Right.
was a part of. Just a quick clip in there, and it's my body with a hand mirror as my head with her face on it. And I'm sitting next to a very tall. I'm sitting next to a tall, thin woman like you, Kay.
Oh yeah.
We were both wearing like matching robes with our hands toward each other, and then we both had hand mirrors for heads that had Madonna's face doing the lyrics of the song. For a quick clip, I was also in a Red Hot Chili Peppers video. The song was called "Soul to Squeeze," and the storyline of it was all black and white, and it was following a 1930s circus, like a traveling circus around. So I was a clown contortionist kind of thing in that video, with my legs wrapped around my head and walking around doing this. And
Oh my gosh.
and I did there was a gospel duo called East to West, and I was the main character of their music video for a song called "Hungry for You," I think. But there were more too. But I'm forgetting everything now because it's been so long. But thank you for bringing that up.
Those first two, Madonna and Red Hot Chili Peppers, both lead singers from Michigan, just like us three. Because I'm in Grand Rapids, Missy's up north, and Kay is here with me in Grand Rapids as well.
Did not know that. Okay.
Well, and we also I would pay a little bit of homage to Pencilhead in the Smash Mouth video for All Star.
Well,
Or not All Star,
which started as just a cameo moment in the movie Mystery Men, and then the Smash Mouth.
Oh God,
So the song All Star was used in the movie, so that we made it into the music video that played on MTV. Yes, true.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yes, I remember that. That was
Yeah.
fantastic.
Well, and then my favorite that it shocked me when I found out when I heard from a different interview that you're actually in a Marilyn Manson
Oh, I
video,
was.
too.
I was.
Oh,
That's
my
right.
goodness.
And I didn't know who Marilyn Manson was. That's so not my style of music. But so when my agent called and said that I'd been requested for a Marilyn Manson video, I said, "Oh, I don't know who she is, but I'm sure she's lovely." Not knowing. So yeah, the song was. I think that song was. I don't like the drugs, but the drugs like me. Does that sound right?
Perfect.
Okay,
Yep, that's the
and
one.
That's right.
yeah, and the
Also.
theme of that music video, the storyline there was kind of set in the future, slightly in the future, where television watching had become such a thing that human beings' eyes have gotten this big. So it required a little bit of a makeup, and I was one of the people in this suburban neighborhood that were just kind of like zombified and big-eyed. Yeah. It was one day in my life.
Yes. Not at all a commentary on the way things really are with.
It's exactly what I know. It was very foretelling, wasn't it?
Social, yeah. Yes, exactly. Especially with social media now, which wasn't a
It
thing
wasn't.
back then.
Yeah.
So one more little bit of a music kick, and then I'll get off my little soapbox. But not to have too many spoilers, can we expect, those of us that follow you on the socials on the Webernet, another Christmas Carol tune?
Yes. Yes.
They are one of my favorites.
It all started here while I was in Toronto while I've been filming Star Trek Discovery. I think it was 2018 18 might have been. I've done 4. I don't think I've done 4 so far.
Yeah.
18, 19, 20, 21. Yeah. Where I was living in the distillery district here in Toronto at the time, filming season 2. Yes, filming season 2. I just finished filming. I would just wrap season 2 of Discovery, and I was about to fly home the next day. And I lived in the distillery district has a big Christmas market. The whole area turns into this huge Christmas market that draws tourists. So it's all lit up and decorated in such a, it's like Christmas vomits in this town square. So I lived in a building on the edge of it, and at 4:00 in the morning, I got this crazy idea. Before I fly home in a few hours, I'm going to go down there because I looked out the window; it's all still lit up overnight, and I'm just going to go sing something a cappella. So I think "Winter Wonderland" is the song I chose, and so I did a quick little a cappella in that voice I just did for you, my bad Vegas act, right? Right.
What was bad about it?
Sleigh bells ring. Are you listening? Yeah. Oh my gosh. I did a quick little.
You can add it to your album
Quick
someday.
little snippet of that,
Yes.
and then I put it up on my social medias. And so it's become my 60-second Christmas special every year. So yes, I usually do it on December 23rd, I think. So you can expect on December 23rd. Yes, another one this year. I don't know what I'm going to do yet, but yes, of course. I've started the tradition now. This will be year 5, so it'll be our 5th anniversary. Won't that be exciting?
Ooh, something
Yeah.
special.
Ooh, yes, celebration.
All right. Well, now that Missy has gotten their music questions out of the way, we'll go back to more career as far as movies and stuff goes. So you have a much larger filmography than a lot of folks. Like you're saying, you don't even remember all of like the music videos and stuff that you've been in because you've been doing so much. And so personality wise, I just was curious, like what characters have you played that are most like you and what characters are least like you?
Well, I think the ones who are most like me are, I'm going to go back to Saru, also Abe Sapien from the Hellboy movies. In fact, Saru and Abe Sapien have some similarities, I think. And also, and probably the least like me would be any of the more demonic things that I've played. I've played the devil in human form many times now. And when you're seductively in someone's face and you lick their cheek and send them to hell, that's probably something that I'm not.
That's not like your go-to move.
No, that's that preparatory. Oh, let me think myself through.
Seems
that
a
one
little Klingon
Right,
to
right,
me.
Right,
And
exactly.
like I said, I'm still in Toronto right now. We did wrap season 5 of Discovery about a week and a half ago, but I have stayed here because I'm doing a couple more episodes of What We Do in the Shadows. And on What We Do in the Shadows,
Oh, such a great
thank you.
show.
And as
Oh,
Baron
yes.
Afanas on that show as a recurring guest here and there, that is another character that is so not like me, but I love playing.
But the Baron is so amazing.
He's so over
Everybody
so
loves him.
He's as
fantastic.
big as I want to be,
Oh my gosh,
and, he's so full of himself, and he's so goofy.
I've got to get caught up. I've been off that show a bit, so I got.
Oh yeah.
Oh
And-
man, the Baron is
yeah,
great.
I go through several different. I morph through different looks as the Baron too, for various reasons. But I don't want to spoil anything. But yeah, there's another look coming.
Oh, that's good to know. I'm excited.
Have to get us hooked already. We got it.
Yes. So you've definitely had a chance to do some of your dream roles now throughout your 36-year career, such as Count Orlok in Nosferatu, and then reprising Billy in Hocus Pocus
yeah.
2. But are there still any roles out there that you would love to play if given the chance?
Yeah, well, you mentioned Nosferatu, that which is not out yet for your listeners. Boy, that's been a long road. Started back in 2014. We did a Kickstarter campaign. I say we; they did a Kickstarter campaign that I was the face of, and it was so a very low budget independent film version of Nosferatu with sound and dialogue. So basically, we took the silent film and stayed very true to it, and then true to the point of using the original film as a backdrop. So we were filmed on green screen, and every frame of the movie of our Nosferatu has a green screen element in it, and that green screen is filled in with something from the original film. So I got to play in the same environment that Max Schreck did when he played Count Orlok in Nosferatu in 1922.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yes, that was awesome, and that was a dream come true for me, because that was the role that I, as far as like, having something glued on to me and changing my look. Nosferatu was the one that was on my bucket list, and that's been checked off now. And I just got a text from our producer like about a week ago saying that the finished product of the film is finally done. So that took years to do.
Yay!
Because again, every green screen element took digital artists and on a very low budget, so it took a long time to complete. Years. Mm-hmm. So that's finally done. So hopefully we can see it on either on the festival circuit first, maybe for a minute. But distributors have already been clamoring for it because it's been talked about so much, and they're so we have people that are ready to take it and distribute it. So you'll be seeing it at some point.
Yay!
Sweet.
Aside from that, as far as like creatures, I've had everything glued onto me that I care to. I have no more bucket list. Otherworldly creatures, but at this point, I want to explore more human characters, and I again, this is such a left turn from science fiction world, but I love Hallmark Christmas movies especially, and so if I could play like the dad of a grown woman who's falling in love on the show, but doesn't know how to process her feelings, and I can have that moment where I'm holding a cup of cocoa and wearing a Christmas sweater with deer on it, and I can say, "Oh, honey, your mother would be so proud of you." Of course, but she's always passed away because there's all. Now, I know I watch so many Hallmark movies. I know every.
Right. There's always the same beats, but that's why we go back to them. It's like it's like a good cup of cocoa. Like what to expect.
Yes, it is. It's those Mad Libs of the Hallmark Christmas.
The Mad Libs.
Right here.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm not even kidding about that. That's I love feel goods. I love happy endings. I love low stakes, so you don't have to invest too much stress into watching something. So I'd like to be a part of more productions like that in the future. Sure.
Well, kind of perfect tie-in for a question that I've had for a while is, well, as Doug knows, the listeners don't know that my personal goal is to work through his filmography, and I'm 96% done with it currently. But you got to do a really sweet little like father-daughter role. What was it like filming spearfishing with Natisha?
Oh my gosh! Thank you for even knowing about that, Miss. By the way, that your quest to see everything on my IMDb page is remarkable. The fact that you can have had the patience to watch 170 some entries. And wow, and how you found them, because I haven't seen them all yet. So you're doing better than me. Spearfishing was a short film that my adopted daughter Natisha is an actress, comedian, and she and her husband Galen, they weren't married yet; they were fiancés at the time. But he wrote it and directed this short film called Spearfishing. It didn't have anything to do with spearfishing, really. It was more of an office scenario, and I played Natisha's boss. So she comes in and she's having a rough day, and I kind of give her the comfort talk. It was very much a fatherly mentorship kind of role, but also playing it on film with a young lady that I have adopted as a daughter was just like a dream come true to work with her on film. And we already had that chemistry there, so I think it translated. I felt it translated pretty well. We felt good about it. So I'd love to do something like that again in a feature film, or something that will get out there more, because it's on YouTube somewhere, right, Missy? Is that where you found it?
Yeah, you can find it on YouTube. It's very hard.
It was a lovely little scene. Yeah. So, anywho, thanks for knowing about that.
Awesome. Oh, all that work, I didn't even really realize the volume was so huge as far as what you've done. But looking down the road, things in the future, even things that may be bumped up in the past, is there any character or a type of role that you would just say no? that would be like total deal breaker, not for me, I'm turning it down?
Well, I've said no quite a few times throughout my career already, so I have experience with this question. Well, I think it's when you're known as an actor who plays lots of otherworldly creatures, a lot of what gets offered to me is bloody horror films, right? Because there's some kind of needed in it. And I know there's an audience for that, and God bless them, and I hope they enjoy their content. But for me, I need to know that the whole story is leading somewhere positive by the end. That there's a victory over evil somehow. That evil isn't what really prevails, and so I get offered a lot of things where the ending isn't satisfactory in that way for me personally. Where it just feels like we're just we're splattering blood on the wall just for the shock value, and that's what I'll say no to. Yeah, I have no interest in that.
Gotcha. Well, I admire that. That's fantastic. And certainly my wife is a lover of horror films, and we watch just about every bad one that comes out there. So I know exactly what you're talking about. Kay has just embarked on, even just through working with our network, and I know her husband has kind of gotten her a little bit more into watching horror films as time goes by. So, but before that, I know, Kay, you were like, it was just
a lot of it was because a lot of the horror movies that people would try to introduce me to were kind of that like gore porn shock value for shock value's sake. And I'm like, okay, I don't even mind if it's a downer story, but as long as there is some sort of narrative or scope to it or understanding or through line or story or metaphor. And so, yes, my spouse does very much like horror movies. So we've been doing a horror movie a week as he has been like carefully introducing me to try to like gauge it. But it's been all stuff that is, none of it is that kind of gore porn stuff. He's not a fan of that.
Well, and the positive, the good part about horror, I think is that I think as an audience member watching a horror movie, you can safely deal with some issues, and I think by the time the lights come up and you're done with that movie, you might feel like, maybe I'm empowered to tackle the monsters and demons in my own life because I just saw a heroine or a hero get through it on their own somehow and muster up the strength to overcome evil. Maybe I can do that today when I go to work or whatever that is, right?
Yeah. I think that the good horror movies do a really great job of kind of personifying a bigger, darker issue. And kind of creating a metaphor around that and showing that kind of perseverance.
Right,
Agreed.
So as long as we're accomplishing that, then I can do the project.
Yes.
Gotcha. Good school. So if you, looking back on something, we live in the reboot, sequel, reimagine, whatever land. If a director rings you up or rings your agent up and it gets to you, hey, Doug, we're doing a reboot of XYZ and we want you back. Would it be something? I mean, is there something in particular that you're like, I never really want to revisit that again? I mean, if you're comfortable saying, because I was like, I don't want to burn any bridges, but still, if it was something that's like, we're rebooting blank, we want you.
Well, I'll start by saying that I was really tickled pink and happy about the sequel of Hocus Pocus 29 years later. That was like that was
as were we all.
Yes.
Jump back into.
True.
Yeah. Well, there's been an awful lot of talk lately about the Silver Surfer. Now, because when I did Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer, it was a 20th Century Fox produced movie, and then when Marvel performed its own studio, Fox still owned the rights to a certain, and I think Spider-Man was another one that was kind of over at.
Yeah, Sony,
right
up there in Sony.
So they needed to get the family all back together under one roof. But now, but Marvel and 20th Century Fox are now under the Disney umbrella, so they can indeed incorporate the Fantastic Four and Silver Surfer back under their roof again. So there's been a lot of talk about reprising him, and when I did the Fantastic Four sequel back we filmed it in 2006. It came out in 2007. I had a 3-picture deal, so it was already established that I would probably come back and do my own origin story or solo movie, and then but that had a 5-year term on it, and so I think a script was written, it was never made. Don't know what happened. Again, those are decisions way above my pay grade. So then that contract is null and void now and all gone. But so now that I'm 62 years old and kind of wanting to wind down on those actiony rubber bits roles, if it was, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how I feel about it. First of all, I don't think they would come back to me to reprise the Silver Surfer, because when you are, when you're kind of rebooting and recreating, you don't go back to the original cast. But just a hypothetical question here. I would love to. I loved him. I loved the Silver Surfer. I loved everything that he was. He had a quiet, cool confidence about him that I don't have, and it was lovely to try and play him. So to revisit that, I was excited about the prospect back then to jump into a solo movie. Now I'm like, I'm kind of. I don't have a distaste in my mouth for it, but I'm not quite as excited because of just because of like where I'm at in life in general now.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And that makes sense. I mean, you have so many accolades under your belt at this point. I mean, leading man in an Oscar-winning film, which was The Shape of Water. You have 3 Lifetime Achievement Awards for Makeup Artists and Hairstylist Guides and California Independent Film Festival and Halloween Hotness. And soon to be 4 now with your upcoming Dream Machine International Film Festival. So sweet. And 3 Saturn Awards for Star Trek Discovery.
3 nominations, 2 wins. Yeah, but yeah.
Or 3 nominations. Okay, so he has to make me clarify. 3 nominations.
Yeah, I don't want to over trophy myself here. Yeah.
But on top of all of that impressive filmography and all of that being said, what is it like to receive so many of those accolades for your work?
Oh, yeah. Well, it is absolutely humbling and lovely. And when you're a young actor starting out, or you're a teenager in Indiana looking ahead, thinking, well, I wonder what, watching award shows on TV and wondering, like, could that be me one day? When you're standing on stage holding a gold statuette of some sort and getting teary-eyed while you try to thank everybody and reminisce on how you got there, it's a dream come true. Truly, it really is. And especially, I just keep working. I'm living my life one day at a time, and I'm what's on the calendar for tomorrow. Okay, got to be ready for that. So when someone makes you stop and say, we're going to do a review of where you've come. Let's look back, bring you up to today, and we're going to give you some, a pretty little thing to take home to commemorate this day. That's like a moment you don't plan for those. It's like, what? Oh, and then you're watching at these, posh events. You're all dressed up, and they're running a montage of your entire career. It's like, wow, I guess I've done a lot. I don't know.
I did do all that stuff. What?
Right. So, but the funny part too is you never think that you're old enough to be doing this. I think Guillermo del Toro said it best. He at the Saturn Awards. We were there at the same time one year, and he was being honored with a Lifetime Achievement Award. And the first thing he said when he got up on stage, to accept his Lifetime Achievement Award was, perhaps the Science Fiction Academy knows something about my health that I don't. Is it like you're almost thinking, is it time to celebrate my entire life now? Does that mean I'm done? Or what? Yeah. What does that mean? But I think we all. It's nice to take these moments while we have them, even though, yes, of course, I have to then leave that award show and go back to work the next day usually. So it's all good. I'm still plodding ahead.
So speaking of getting to sit there with the Lifetime Achievement Awards and kind of seeing all the stuff that you've worked on presented to you, for some of our listeners that aren't as familiar with your filmography as, say, I don't know, me, what would be a couple faces of Doug that you might say would be a good representation that they should go see, movies that they should seek out?
Representation of that would be like a me thing.
Yeah, that's you, not something under the big heavy rubber hits.
Right. Well, I would think probably like a movie like My Name is Jerry. Yeah. My Name is Jerry was a lovely indie film that I did that I just love. And again, it's that feel good, low stakes character, and probably talk about characters that are most like me. The young filmmaker that did Morgan Mead, that wrote and directed My Name is Jerry, knew me from doing a short film for him when he was in film school. So he graduates film school, and then writes this feature film for me and says, I don't know if you'd want to do this or not. I read it, was like, yes, absolutely, let's do this. So Jerry has a lot of Dougie in him, and he was a middle-aged white guy going through a midlife crisis, things that I am and have done. So I understood Jerry right away when I read the script. And and it also has a father-daughter storyline to it, and then a hopeful love interest that you're not quite sure where that's going. And then you see a mirror image of like that love interest with his father-daughter thing. It's like, oh, that's what he really was after, was like a connection with family, and he was kind of misguided in his romantic endeavors. And so it's a nicely put together little puzzle. I love Jerry. Another one that was kind of interesting, Miss, you just watched it recently, I think, was a short film called My Friend Max, where I got to play a ghost who was a friend. He was a friend of a little girl who had lost her father. So this ghost is kind of like assigned to help grieving people in different situations. So this was his current assignment, was to befriend and be like a kind of a ghostly father figure for this girl. And it was another little charming story that had some emotion to it, and had a little hint of darkness to it, but ultimately was a good thing. So those kind of stories are like num 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 num.
If I had to do a personal plug, like I love both of those too, but I would also say like more of a short film. The Butterfly Circus
gosh, I can't believe I forgot that one.
A very heartwarming tale.
The Butterfly Circus. Oh my gosh. The star of that was Nick Vujicic. He is a very well-known public speaker, motivational speaker. He was born with no arms, no legs, and he wrote the book Life Without Limbs, and it's just the most he's the most inspirational person I've ever met in my entire life, with a can-do attitude. We all have excuses for why we're not doing something, and here is a man with no arms, no legs, who says, "Yeah, you can," Yeah. So he was this. They wrote this short film for him, Butterfly Circus, where he was a circus sideshow freak back in the 1920s ish. And then a bigger circus comes through and like spots him and are happy to have him join our new circus. And I'm a part of that bigger circus family. And he finds a sense of family, a sense of belonging, and they develop a new act for him that really uses his talents and uses his limblessness as a he finds an act that works for him, and again, it's all of us are like, why was I born this way? Why do I look like this? Why do I have these personality traits? And then at some point in your life, it's nice when it clicks in, like, oh, that's why. God knew what he was doing when he created me. There was a sense of purpose for me, and there's a place where all this fits. So that Butterfly Circus is that story, and I really was tickled pink to be a part of that one. Yeah.
And you also get to see Doug in a very nice, form-fitting leotard. So.
Yeah, I played I played the circus contortionist, and that usually comes with something stretchy like a leotard. Yes, thank you, Missy.
Something stretchy. Oh my goodness. Well, just shifting to the personal focus, kind of thinking about the background of Doug. So you're the youngest of four boys. How do you think being the baby of the bunch? I'm the baby of the bunch, though I just have one older brother. How do you think being the baby of your bunch has really affected your life across the spectrum, personal, professional?
Oh gosh, in all kinds of ways. But my three older brothers, all good looking, all athletic, all went to college on full ride scholarships for sports. And I'm the one who's like the theater freak, right? So,
much like all of us in one form or another. Yeah, we're all performers here.
Right. So, so I felt like I was walking in their shadow quite a bit, and but it gave me and while I ran track and cross country, I didn't really excel at it. It was nice to be part of a sports team. I got that experience. I did that, but I really needed to take a turn and a curve that went off of the beaten path, to find my own voice and my own place in this world without trying to follow in their footsteps. And so, and now that we're all adults and grown up, we are all best friends now. And I, yes, I got picked on as the youngest, but they didn't physically beat on me. They psychologically tormented me.
Well, that's just family. I mean, everybody knows that.
In the way that family does.
Oh my
Right.
goodness.
Mhm.
Indeed.
But,
yes. Sporadically good
Yeah,
natured.
yeah. But now we're all best friends, and we, you can put all that childhood nonsense behind you.
Right. And this was my innovation. Missy was saying, "Oh, we're forming up our questions. What's one you want to pitch in?" And I thought, Doug's from Indiana. We're all from up here in Michigan. So, because you're a Midwesterner like this, like we are, and you're from Southern Indiana. What's the most Midwestern thing you remember doing when you were a kid?
Oh, well, probably attending the Indiana State Fair. Loved it.
I've done
Yes.
that. I've been there.
Yep. When you're walking through the livestock area and you're seeing all the 4-H winners for pigs and cows, and it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. Or the first time I ever knew or was aware of Dolly Parton was watching her on stage at the Indiana State Fair performing with Porter Wagner. Back when
My gosh.
Oh, wow.
She traveled with him. Like he was like her. He kind of took her under his wing and she kind of outgrew him and became Dolly frickin' Parton, right?
Exactly.
But I saw her in the
my
Porter Wagner
goodness.
days on stage live at the Indiana State Fair. So that was kind of
Oh,
cool.
wow. The State Fair.
Well, with your Indiana days and more days of your youth, we have to talk a little bit about good old Charlie Cardinal at Ball State.
Oh, well, sure. Yes,
Cardinal. That's almost my name.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Charlie Cardinal was the mascot at Ball State University, where I attended. I got my bachelor's degree, and I spent 2 years as the mascot, as Charlie, for the basketball team. There was a different one for the football team, and so that meant that I did home games and I traveled some to away games. And before me, Charlie Cardinal was. I noticed like there was this bird standing at the side of the field, kind of doing this, like, yay, whenever there was a touchdown or a basket made. And I was just thinking, gosh, there's so much more that can be done with that, So of course I auditioned for Charlie. I auditioned for Charlie Cardinal at the end of my freshman year so that I could do him sophomore year, and I did not get it. Right? They rejected me.
Stone cold.
So I came back the next year thinking I'm going to do this again, dagnabbit. And I wowed them that time. I knew what angles to play. So so I became a part of the cheerleading squad as the mascot, and Charlie took on a whole new life. I danced at halftime. I played with the crowd. I got passed up the stands. Very interactive. I even came up with they sweep the floors with those big wide mop things during halftime after the show's done, so they can get the floor cleaned up before the next half of the game. I would follow that poor guy around. It became I had a bit with the mop guy, and Anyway, so it was a crowd pleaser, and so to this day, I've had people that are still, on staff at Ball State University telling me that you were the best Charlie Cardinal we ever had. It's like, that's a badge of honor that I wear with pride.
Oh, that's awesome.
And Ball State University takes credit for being for putting me in my first costumed role because of that.
Launching you to the stars, a springboard.
It's all because of them. All because of
Well, and
just ask them.
maybe it would have been mascotting if your acting had not panned out, or if you had decided to go another role. But what career do you think you would be in today if you hadn't had gone the acting route?
Right. Well, my brother Richie is a psychologist and in Indiana, And he's told me many a time that he said, if you weren't an actor, I think you should have been a therapist. And
I second that you would be amazing, just for the record.
Missy, of course, speaking as a licensed therapist. Thank you, Missy. So yes, that is one option that psychology did interest me. Also, nursing. I think it's anything with hands-on healing properties to it. I think is of interest. Where you leave people in a better place than you found them, whatever that would be. So nursing and psychology both interested me because of that.
I can definitely see that you have an empathetic nature to you, so I can see how both of the careers that you would have chosen besides acting would have been something of healing in nature.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get a little goofy or maybe a little real. So what is the craziest fan interaction? Because you love your fans, and I was at the 2018 Comic-Con in Grand Rapids, and as desperately as I wanted to see you, it seemed like there was always a line a mile long, and it just seems like you were always with your fans. So you have to have some fun interactions with fans since then. So what is the kind of like wackiest one that you've had the opportunity to see?
It's so hard to answer, worst, best, wackiest questions.
I mean, besides like, the crazy person with the Bramo mohawk who maybe like stalks you at every show.
Not quite every show. Come on now.
I think again, you are correct. I do love anyone who calls themselves a fan of mine. I just love them dearly. And when I do actually love the convention circuit. I love the having a chance to see face to face, one-on-one, one at a time. People who have been consuming the product that I've been making all these years, whatever that product is. Having lived in the science fiction, horror, fantasy, comic book genres, those pop culture events, usually it infuses all of those together. Where there's most of the things I've been in are represented at those events, those conventions. So I love hearing this. What I love about it is hearing stories of, here's where I was in my life when I watched this movie of yours, or that TV series of yours helped me get through this part of my life, or a movie you were in I shared with my parents, and my dad's now passed away, and every time I see that movie it reminds me of him. I love those stories. Those are life moments that I didn't realize I was a part of until I hear about it from these fans. So that's my favorite part is to hear the follow-up, and that helps inspire me to go back to set and film more things, because I can put that story and that fan face behind the camera, and that's who I'm playing to. Not for the network, not for the studio. It's for those people.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Well, thank you. So that's the love part, and then the surprises are plentiful. Like the first time I ever saw anybody cosplaying a character of mine, I was like, what? and that's happened. So over the years, it's happened countless times now. But I remember the first time anyone cosplayed as Billy Butcherson or as the Silver Surfer. They both happened on the same day at Dragon Con down in Atlanta, Georgia. So I got a photo op with me standing between Billy Butcherson and the Silver Surfer. It was like, great.
Whoa!
The other thing too is the world of tattoos, and who has a lot of them. And I think that my hand and penmanship is on you somewhere. Is it not, Missy?
In 3 different spots,
right? Well, okay,
actually. 4 different spots, 5 different spots. Jeez, yes.
No, but I was the first time that I was aware that someone was getting something tattooed on them. It was a long time ago. I think it was right after I'd played the Silver Surfer. So it was, a good 14, 15 years ago. A young lady came up to my table at a convention, and she said, "Would you sign my arm right here?" And I'm like, well, I wonder why. But so I took a Sharpie and I signed Doug Jones on her forearm. And 2 hours later, she came back. It was covered in plastic and red around the edges. I'm like, no, you did not. Right?
Demon pen.
Had I known, I would have taken more time and made it prettier. But oh my gosh. And then she said, well, oh, but you're in good company. And she lifted up her other arm and it had Stan Lee on it, right? So I'm like, oh, well, okay.
Oh my
Oh
God.
wow! Talk about a compliment.
I was
Yeah, right. The pair for all time.
Yeah. So that's when I realized if somebody, if something that you have done inspires someone to get a representation of that thing on their person for the rest of their life, I don't know if there is a bigger compliment than that. That's really lovely to take, when someone affords you some real estate on their person. That's a lovely thing.
Wow. Woo. My goodness.
So that the fans, I can speak from a fan side. We get so much out of your interactions at conventions and interviews and stuff that we get to do anytime we get to have one-on-one time with you. But doing the big conventions where you're always busy, there's always something going on. What do you get out of it?
Well, it's exhausting. Conventions are exhausting for me, of course, because again, I'm an introvert in my heart. So public events it slowly depletes you throughout the day. But at conventions, I walk away from depleted in one way, but enriched in another, because I've had a line of people all day, one at a time, telling me how much they love me. Who could hate that, right? Who could hate that? So no, that's incredibly lovely. And again, like I said, hearing those personal stories of where you're not aware that when you're filming something and the challenges and trials and tribulations that I go through, the blood, sweat, and tears I go through to make to film things, especially in the types of looks and characters that I've had to play. When you hear this kind of follow up, it's like, oh, that's why the sacrifice was worth it, right there.
Yeah, I know one of my favorite parts of conventions is getting the Dougie Huggles, because those can cure all, I swear.
Yes, yeah. Well, of course, I'm a huggy, touchy person, and I would say, touch is one of my main love languages. So when I have a line of people waiting for them, it's like I'm in heaven. Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's one of my forms of self-care with, my newly appointed role, thanks to my fellow crew of ship's counselor. I like to check in and say, what do you do for self-care, Doug?
For self-care? Well, today is a perfect example. After talking to you, I see this hotel room that I'm in. I'm not leaving it today. I'm going to stay right here.
That's smart.
Yeah. I worked all last week on What We Do in the Shadows, and then I worked Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday on What We Do in the Shadows. I have Thursday, Friday off, so I'm going to stay right here and rock back and forth and drool and turn on the Hallmark Channel and just have it.
Maybe get some room service hot cocoa.
What do you think's in here?
Yes.
Okay.
Boy. Oh my goodness. Well, with that, we are starting to wind down. So I will ask you the question that always gets asked. Final words of wisdom to the folks who are listening to this program. What would you have to say?
Oh, that's not a big task, is it?
No, not at all. I thought I'd check you softball at the end there, so hopefully that works.
Oh, golly. Well, as I sit here again as a 62-year-old man, I can say live life to its fullest, one day at a time. And if as life presents challenges that look like a big elephant, and you're thinking, how am I going to eat this elephant? One bite at a time. That's the answer. Eat an elephant
one bite at a time,
and eventually it'll be done.
Oh, how to eat an elephant with Doug Jones. We've just named this interview.
There you go.
My goodness. What an adventure. Doug, God, thank you so much for this. This has been absolutely fantastic. And thank you to all of our listeners for tuning in. This is obviously, as I said, a segment of our new Patreon network. So you have joined us because you love us so much, and we're very grateful for you. Want to thank again, of course, Cool Waters Productions. I want to thank my awesome co-hosts, Kay and Missy. And with that, as I always tell you, that sharing is caring, and to keep on trucking.
And wherever you go, go boldly.
And always live long and prosper.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network. Visit secretfriendsunite.com for more great shows, articles, news, reviews, and more. Secret Friends Unite podcasts are available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and other podcast services around the world. If you'd like to be part of the conversation, you can join us on Facebook or our new Discord server, or follow @SecretFriendsU on Twitter. Please subscribe to Secret Friends Unite on YouTube and visit our merch store at tpublic.com. Just search Secret Friends Unite. Thanks for listening.